Hello, my name is Nicole Kavanaugh, and I'm the manager of technical operations at Aldevron's Madison site. Aldevron is a contract development and manufacturing organization that supplies research and GMP-grade Cas9 proteins for therapeutic applications. It was in the course of this work that our clinical partners expressed a need for research to GMP path for CRISPR RNPs as well. And that's the focus of this presentation, to present the work that Aldevron has done to develop the conditions around complexing CRISPR RNPs and the development and validation of the methods used to test them. RNP stands for ribonucleoprotein, which is a complex made of guide RNA and Cas9 protein. The graphic here shows the Cas9 protein with its catalytic nuclease domains cleaving a piece of genomic DNA after alignment to the guide RNA. The DNA is cleaved on both strands, resulting in a double-stranded break, which allows for researchers to knock out, or in other words, inactivate a gene inside of a cell. Delivering RNPs inside of a cell is just one way to perform CRISPR gene editing. CRISPR nucleases and guide RNA can also be delivered as plasmid DNA or as RNA. But the use of RNPs is advantageous for a few reasons. First is that the RNP bypasses transcription and translation, so it's immediately active. Secondly, due to the fact it's an RNA protein complex, the RNP is quickly degraded, which reduces potential off-target effects. A third benefit of using RNPs is that they're titratable, which means RNPs can be delivered in a controlled fashion. So there are a few benefits of using RNPs compared to other delivery methods. So now let's discuss some examples of CRISPR RNPs being used as therapeutics. One of the leading therapeutic examples is the use of CRISPR RNPs in ex vivo treatments for immuno-oncology. In recent years, there's been a rise in the development and use of CAR T therapies against certain types of cancer. CAR T is short for chimeric antigen receptor T cell. The first two CAR T therapies approved in the US, Kymriah and Yescarta, take a patient's own T cells, modify them by delivering a lenti or retroviral cassette, which expresses the chimeric antigen receptor, which randomly integrates into its genome. And then this receptor targets CD19 on the cancer cell surface. Since the approval of these therapies, there's been a number of studies showing that knocking out certain endogenous T cell genes can greatly enhance the therapeutic potential of CAR and TCR-based therapeutic approaches. So CRISPR RNPs are a safe and effective way to inactivate these primary T cell genes. Some examples of endogenous T cell genes that can be targeted for knockout to create therapeutic benefit can be seen in the table below. So listed first are examples of native T cell receptor genes. When these genes are knocked out, it prevents cross-reactivity with the exogenously delivered T cell receptor. Then we have the PD-1 gene, which is involved in T cell exhaustion and suppression. And then in the context of moving towards allogeneic or off-the-shelf possibilities in the future of T cell therapies, the HLA genes, or human leukocyte antigen genes, which are involved in graft versus host response. Knocking them out in different combinations to figure out which ones to remove puts us on a path towards off-the-shelf future T cell therapies. These are just a few of the more recent examples of T cell genes that have been identified as having therapeutic impacts, and there are more coming out in the literature every day. Aldevron recognizes that there's a need in the field for therapeutic RNPs to complement our clinical GMP-Cas9 protein offering. So in collaboration with our therapeutic partners, we first set out to determine the ideal complexing conditions for guide RNA and Cas9. Next, we wanted to optimize a platform in vitro cutting assay to assess relative RNP activity. Another aim was to develop and optimize assays for quantifying free or uncomplex Cas9 and guide RNA. Using these assays, we created a standard QC panel for RNPs and conducted long-term stability studies to determine shelf life and optimal storage conditions for RNPs once they've been complexed. Here on the left is a poster which shows the culmination of the RNP work done at Aldevron. And next we'll look more closely at the results from these studies. Our first task was to optimize an in vitro cutting assay to assess the relative activity of each RNP. We used the linearized 5 kb plasmid, which contained the guide RNA target. If you look at the gel on the top left, the first lane next to the target contains 3 bands. The top band represents the 5 kb DNA target. And then once the DNA target is cleaved, it creates asymmetric 2 kb and 3 kb bands. If cutting takes place, you expect to see a diminishment of the top band and an increase in the intensity of the bottom 2 bands. So as we move from the lanes left to right, there's a decrease in the amount of RNP tested. And with fewer RNPs, there's less cleavage, hence the increased intensity of the top band of DNA. We performed an RNP titration because we wanted to find the linear range for cutting for this particular RNP, as well as the lower limit of detection. As you can see here, the limit of detection based on the gel's densitometry is around 0.01 picomoles of RNP. We were also able to find a sufficient linear range of cutting as represented in the graph on the top left. Also, it's important to note that these gel images are representative of the assay for one RNP, so there have been similar studies done for other RNPs, and the data are not shown here. Once we optimized a satisfactory in vitro assay, we worked on discovering the optimal amount of guide RNA to protein ratios for the RNP complex. Using the gel cleavage assay, the bottom gel, the far left lane, represents the non-template plasmid control, which doesn't contain a target site, so we wouldn't expect to see cleavage there. The second lane is the linearized DNA target plasmid without RNPs added. You wouldn't expect cleavage there either, and you can see in both of these control lanes that there's just the one band without any bands below. We then looked at ratios of 0.5, 1, 1.2, and 1.5x guide RNA to Cas9 protein, and looking at a titration of RNPs for each of these ratios. Based off these data, we concluded that the 1.5x ratio was able to achieve the most efficient level of cutting in vitro. These results were also substantiated in cellular models, whose data will not be presented today. In conclusion, we were able to develop a nice in vitro cutting assay for the RNPs, as well as identify the ideal complexing ratio of guide RNA to Cas9 protein using this assay as a guide. Next, we focus on quantitatively measuring free Cas9 in an RNPA preparation. We tried a few different assay methods before finding the one that worked best. Initially, we tried to use differential scanning fluorimetry as a way to measure free or apo-Cas9, and this was represented by the graph on the left. However, we weren't able to find a linear range, so we then turned our attention to size exclusion chromatography, which is represented by the graph on the right. The gray line shown here represents the RNP, which elutes around 6 minutes. But unfortunately, so does the free Cas9, making them indistinguishable and this assay unfit for purpose. Lastly, we looked at using analytical cation exchange chromatography in order to differentiate between the bound and unbound Cas9 in the RNP composition. On the far left is a graph representing the free Cas9 by itself with no guide RNA. On an analytical cation exchange column, the Cas9 elutes between 15 and 17 minutes. When we compare the RNP on the same cation exchange column, it's shown eluting between 9 and 12 minutes. Also note that the guide RNA elutes in the flow-through and is not bound by the column. Based off the graph on the far right, it's evident that the free Cas9 in composition, represented by the blue line, and the RNP complex, represented by the green line, are sufficiently distinguishable. So after significant development, it was determined that analytical cation exchange was the optimal assay for determining free Cas9 in RNP preparations. In the start of our work with RNPs, we noticed that the composition and quality of the guide RNA can have a big impact on the resolution of these assays. You can see in the gel on the left that there are 6 separate guide RNAs, and the first lane next to the latter has a single distinct band representing high-quality guide RNA. There are little to no peripheral products to the main banded RNA in the sample. However, in the remaining 5 lanes, we see a number of products in addition to the full-length guide, which are representative of lower purity guide RNA. When we tested the RNP samples formed with these different guide RNA qualities, On the analytical exchange column, you can see on the top right, an RNP ran using high purity guide, where there's a nice separation between the RNP eluting around 10 minutes and the free Cas9, which elutes just after 15 minutes. This is based off the properties of the negatively charged guide RNA complexed with the positively charged protein. So the RNP is overall less positively charged than unbound Cas9, so it elutes sooner. So when you have extraneous guide RNA products, which is what we suggest is present in the lower purity guides based on the gel, this confounds the resolution of the cation exchange assay. We can see the results of the RNP containing the lower purity guide RNA in the bottom right graph, in which the RNP has become indistinguishable from the free Cas9. We determined that these findings regarding the purity of the guide RNA were valuable information to share with our partners who had clinical aspirations for their genome editing therapies, especially when considering the reagents that they need to do this work. Once we established an assay for free Cas9, we then directed our efforts to quantifying free guide RNA. Through experimentation with a variety of methods, we discovered that native page gel electrophoresis was a useful way to separate the free guide from the complete RNP complex. The gel on the left represents increasing ratios of guide RNA to protein from 1 to 1.5x. This gel was stained with cyber gold to detect RNA. And to the right is a Western blot of a native page gel in which we use an antibody against the Cas9 protein, which is represented by the red staining. And there you can see that the staining overlaps with the top bands on the cyber gold gel, indicating that the guide RNA is complexed with the protein in that region. We could then conclude that the bands at the bottom of the gel represent free guide RNA, running farther than the RNP complex. Also note that as we increase the concentration of guide RNA to Cas9, we see an increase in density of the free guide RNA bands, which indicates more free guide RNA present. One of the biggest unanswered questions around RNPs was related to the conditions around their long-term storage. And looking through the literature and commercial protocols, there is little data surrounding the longevity of RNPs. In fact, many RNP complexing protocols call for immediate delivery to cells. If we think about the potential of RNPs as an off-the-shelf drug, it's critical to understand the best storage conditions and stability over time. In order to find answers to these important questions, we set up a long-term stability study with storage conditions of -80, -20, 4 degrees, and 30 degrees. We also placed RNP samples at all 4 temperatures for up to 6 months, and then samples at -80 for up to 2 years. Here are the results from the cleavage assay using samples stored for 6 months. Shown here are gels for all 4 temperatures. This is the same gel-based cutting assay as previously described. When you look at the -80 sample, you can see that there are 2 ladders that flank a negative control where no cutting is taking place. Then in the first lane to the right of the second ladder, we see a low intensity of that top band, indicating a high level of cutting is occurring. Similar results can be seen on the -20 gel. Note that both of these gels are almost identical to the results we saw for time point 0. As the temperature increases, we see a similar cutting profile with the 4-degree RNP sample, but we see a decline in cutting efficiency in the 30-degree sample. As we take a look at our 6-month stability results on our analytical cation exchange assay, we see a nice tight peak around 10 minutes for samples stored at -80, -20, and 4 degrees, which indicates an intact RNP with few degradation products. Once again, these results were very comparable to the results of time point 0. But then as we observe the results from 30 degrees, we see there's a large decrease in the RNP peak, which is likely due to degradation of the guide RNA and Cas9 protein in this warmer condition. These data support the idea that -80 up to 4 degrees are suitable storage temperatures for RNPs up to 6 months, in contrast to the 30-degree sample, which was not stable. The study continued to 12 months for our -80 storage condition. The gel images show results of 6 months to 12 months side by side. Once again, looking at that 4th lane or the 1st lane to the right of the 2nd ladder, we see high cutting efficiency for the 6-month sample. Then as you look at the cutting activity of the RNP after 12 months at -80, you can see that no apparent decrease in cutting efficiency after an additional 6 months spent in storage. These results are again nearly identical to that time zero data collected. The analytical cation exchange chromatograms also support the activity assay findings in that they show comparable results for both 6 and 12-month time points, with time peaks eluding around 10 minutes. It's very informative to know that RNPs can be stored at -80 for up to a year with relatively little degradation or inhibition in cutting activity. Also note that these studies are ongoing out to 2 years, so there will be more data available in the future. We also ran our assay for free guide RNA at each time point. And on this slide, you can see gel images from 3 and 12 months. The last 4 lanes on the 3-month gel show RNPs stored at -80 through 30 degrees. These RNPs were formed at a 1.5x ratio of guide to Cas9, so we expect to see free RNA. We do see a single band of free guide in the -80 and -20 samples, but see degradation in the 4-degree sample. The 30-degree sample shows nearly complete degradation of the free RNA. The 12-month gel shows a -80 sample run in triplicate after 1 year of storage, and all 3 lanes are nearly identical to the results presented at time point 0 and 3 months. The tight band of free guide RNA with no apparent degraded products below confirm that RNP storage at -80 for up to 1 year is suitable. With that, I will conclude our presentation. So Aldevron's goal is to be the leading supplier of therapeutic material to all of our clients doing genome editing work for clinical applications. Please feel free to contact me with any questions or inquiries on how we can help you move from the bench to the clinic with your genome editing therapies. Thank you so much for your time.